Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Boni. It's my pleasure to introduce Professor Dr. George Dimitrov to you. George is from Bulgaria. He is a founder and senior expert of law and the internet, and the founder and senior expert of the Law and Internet Foundation, which is one of the leading think tanks in Bulgaria dealing with legal and internet technical issues. He is also a member of the Foundation's management board, and he teaches law and internet at different universities, including Sofia University, the University of Library Studies and Information Technologies, and the Veliko Tarnovo University. He is one of the outstanding leading experts in the field of ICT in law in Bulgaria. And in this role, he has drafted several of the relevant laws with a specific focus on electronic commerce, electronic identification, electronic governance, and so on. He's also the national correspondent for Bulgaria in many projects assigned by the European Commission. And this is also one of the reasons why we know each other. We have been working together in several European projects. It's such a pleasure to have you back again, George, today. And I'm really honored to welcome you in this show. How is your life at the moment in Bulgaria?
Hi, Nicholas. It's life is beautiful as always. I mean, when the smile is on the face, there are no challenges that can influence the way people live. No COVID, no other problems can can change that. So it's a question of mindset, huh?
Yes, but I mean, apart from the mindset, so perhaps let's start with the brute facts, right? So the brute facts are that I would assume that the teaching, let's start with academia perhaps at the beginning. So I would assume that the teaching, the way of teaching, let's put it like this, the way of teaching has changed significantly both for students and for professors. Would you kindly perhaps describe briefly how this looks like at the moment?
Yeah, that's true. The brute facts are that by facing the society, have faced something pronounced to be, described as pandemia by the World Health Organization, which imposed lots of measures by the governments to secure protection of the of people, of the society, which from lockdowns to other measures, partial measures. But anyway, let's be honest, the whole society was affected. This is not something new that I'm saying. I just want to stress out that it had impact on all sectors, including the studies at the universities, at schools, including the profession, how you exercise your profession, including how you move, how you meet people, how you socialize, everything, practically everything. So yes, the academia was affected directly, and while it brought a huge challenge, because on one hand, the government, the society should not stop. The universities may not stop. The schools may not stop. They should find a way to quickly transform, quickly digitally transform, quickly change the mindset, of the way of thinking, or the way of how we should deliver knowledge from professors to students, how students can gain knowledge from sources like libraries, like books, and so that this knowledge and this process of delivering knowledge will not be disturbed by COVID. And believe it or not, it was a huge test on how the system can react to this situation with COVID. And let's be honest, it happened quite quickly. If there is a problem, the society just solves the problem. If we think about there might be a problem, there are lots of theories how to solve this problem. Probably we will solve this problem, theories, plans, etc., etc. But when we face the problem, we have to cope with that. And so it happens. So it happens. Practically all, for example, universities in Bulgaria, they just changed. They changed their way of teaching, their way of administrative for their administrative procedures on how to make the how to secure the educational process ongoing and swift and uninterrupted. And also, even they have moved to new procedures, new way of attracting students, of enrolling students at the universities. So all processes were affected, all processes. And they were affected actually quite well. For example, one of the biggest universities in Bulgaria, which is the University of Economic Studies, all the enrollment process, the exams, everything was digital. The enrollment, the signing of contracts, everything went completely remote. And believe me, there was it happened so quickly and without any, let's say, disturbance, huge disturbance, that the university management was shocked. They were shocked. They couldn't believe that. They thought that there will be reaction from the students, from the potential students, from the students. But in fact, it went well. All studies, they continued as planned, but also remotely, like lectures, where well, it changed the mindset of giving lectures, because normally the lectures are from point of view of the professor is always having a connection with the audience, to see how people react, to communicate with the audience, to bring knowledge, but also retrieving back the impact of this knowledge onto people, how they react, how they understand what you're saying, not just saying, but also to understand from the audience. But same from the audience. When there is an audience of students which normally participate in an offline class, now when they have to move to online, the communication with the professors, with the other participants in the audience completely changed. You cannot all the time say what you want to say. It's in different ways. You should raise hand, digital hand. Someone should let you say your question, or you have to raise a question by writing it down. And this is a different mindset of presenting information, of formulating, expressing thoughts. And it was something new, completely new to the whole educational system, the whole country, and not only Bulgaria's country, all countries. I'm sure that everyone has faced that, all universities, all students. Yeah. And practically, this is new challenge, but does it work? It worked well. I can say it worked well. I also miss my classes with my students, but I had to adapt. So practically, the COVID was not only a challenge for the system, it was a huge push for adaptation, where society moved to a completely different step of way of communication, way of how people can communicate, how can they exchange information, how they can exchange knowledge. And it worked well.
Well, let's ask a little bit more in detail about how it worked well. So I would, if I may, I would first assume that if everything is digitized in the teaching environment, there are plenty of issues like in any other university in Europe about how to identify students, whether when they do exams, for example, there might be issues whether students are able, technically able to follow all the classes because of lack of internet connection, lack of internet speed, and so on. there might be issues of lack of communication between professors and students, and so on and so on. So I would assume that there are the usual issues also in Bulgaria, and that Bulgaria is not the only country that is completely different from the others. So I fully understand and appreciate this very optimistic approach that you are choosing, but still, would you think that all of your colleagues share your very positive perception?
No, of course not. No, Nikolaus, I fully agree with you. There are lots of challenges. We're not saying that this is a perfect world and this must be the new way of teaching. Just saying that when you have to deal with a problem, you just deal with it.
Yes.
I mean, and there is no option of if you do not adapt, then you just stop working. You just the process stops. And yes, you're absolutely right that changing the academia, evolving into this new, adapting to this new environment, it's a huge, let's say, a challenge because it faces different groups of problems. One of the problem is absolutely, it's a legal, how to identify students, how to be secure, how to be sure that this exactly person who is somewhere out there on the internet is exactly the one who claims to be, whether he is the one who enrolls, he takes the entry exams or post exams, whether he can normally sign papers, documents which are normally needed in the course of the administrative relations with the student or with the academic staff as well. These are legal things. From technical point of view, true. Access to internet, access to technologies. This is something that was also scary. Not everyone has probably have necessary skills, or probably not everyone has a good access to internet, or I would say skills, knowledge, how to access them. But what happened? Let's be honest. It happened. It happened. It just happened. Yes, internet was what sometimes sucks. I mean, it was not possible to use internet. It was even me as a professor. When I was giving lectures remotely, sometimes my internet dropped. It's part of the things, but still things didn't stop. And even the most let's say conservative among our colleagues, professors and other staff, even they were forced to adapt. It was not, as I said, it was not a choice. It was a must. And that's why when there is a must, you just do it. And that's why this social experiment showed that it works. Yes, with all these issues that you face. And I've gone through discussing all these processes with our universities and with from legal point of view as well. And I can tell you that there are very good practices even in Bulgaria when people can use their mobile device through a special system for remote identification, which is completely legal according to European regulations, namely the so-called ADAS. You can remotely identify sitting from your chair with the same level of assurance as to physical presence, to sign all the documents that are needed to or the test to prove the authorship and the time when the test was made or when the document was signed, to deliver it in the same level of security as to a registered mail. So there are no nowadays, with the current legal regulation in Europe, there are not severe, I would say, legal obstacles of moving into solving the requirements of the academia, but not only to academia, of course, but primarily the academic. On the same side, the skills are far advanced. Everyone has a mobile in his hand. Everyone knows how to use it, have the skills of using it. Even If you do not have a computer, you don't have a tablet, you have a mobile. And believe me, this is reachable everywhere. So the excuse, I don't have internet, it's something that, or I don't have skills, it's something that we could have said this 10 years ago, but not now. So practically it shows that every student appeared when the time came for the lecture. Every student. The perception of using the technologies also changed as a mindset. So yes, I'm optimistic, but I'm realistic because this is what happens. I'm just assessing the results. I'm not saying that this is something perfect. I'm just saying that the results showed that it worked.
So you are telling me, with all due respect, that qualified electronic signatures are used on a regular basis for signing exam documents at all courses in all Bulgarian universities?
No.
Okay.
Not all Bulgarian universities, but I can say that good practices show that several of them did change, and also more are to change. Of course, this happened with the full understanding of our Ministry of Education, and actually the experiment proved successful.
Okay, so I really admire you, George, for this, this driving force that you have. And let's perhaps go a little bit more into detail here about the situation of academics. So I understand that you are allowed and even expected to work as an academic on the one hand, but mainly also in practical work. So you are working as a lawyer and as a consultant at the same time. Is this standard, or is this an exception in the Bulgarian academic system?
It's an exception, of course. Normally, the best way of being professional is to dedicate in one direction. It's the best way. If I had the luxury, because the academia is my passion, it's my love, professional love, I would totally devote to academia, but unfortunately, this proved not possible in this present moment because of my personal, let's say, engagements and a project that I'm involved in, law drafting, law adapting, and also from legal point of view, from the point of view of the legal profession of my law firm. So this is very difficult for me personally. On the other hand, it brings a different perspective, different point of view, because if you see things, for example, the legal profession from point of view of academia, from point of view of law drafting, from point of view of practical legal professional use cases, when you have to cope with them, and you have to present and to communicate with the court, with the administrations on behalf of your clients, it's something that gives a completely different view on the whole forest, and not just on one part of it, or just to see the path among between the trees. So it's a different. It's very hard. I can say it's very hard. So it has its own. Let's say myself, I have to. I have to devote lots of time of my free time also to issues that require attention. But still, it's very rewarding, because at the end of the day, when you look behind, you should have the feeling of doing something useful for for yourself and for the society.
Yeah. So about this law drafting part of your job, is this part of your consultancy work, or is this a paid service to the public, or is this something that you do as an academic?
No, actually, it's part of the consulting business. Actually, it's part of our NGO, non-government organization that I'm chairing, as you kindly presented it, the Law and Internet Foundation. As a think tank, it was approached many times by the government to help in law drafting, which resulted in quite substantial number of laws and bylaws drafted, adapted, and it's a continuous process because technologies evolve, the law must evolve as well. It's a different challenge, but most of the time it's not paid. It's not paid, but it has to be done. Otherwise, I mean, people should give their their contribution to the development of the country, and moreover, it creates also a better environment in the country, and also for our own clients. So it's something that should happen.
But that's, I mean, the tricky part, if I may say so, for an academic is always that if you are an academic, you are expected to be independent in the way, right? And you are expected to monitor the political process, which is sometimes different from actively engaging in the political process, and writing laws normally is part of the political system, not of the academic system. And I personally find the intersection between the two rather difficult to find, right? And in your position, I would assume that it's even more difficult, right?
Oh, believe me, you don't know how much I agree with you. It's I can give you a very interesting practical example that will illustrate what exactly you said, what the difficulties. For example, the Bulgarian judiciary was very much eager to adapt, to introduce so-called concept of e-justice. Means that people can exercise their procedure rights completely digitally. I can, for example, create and I can submit my claim to the court digitally, identifying myself, signing it. The court can start the procedure digitally. Yeah? Even the court hearing might happen in a way digitally, or even questioning, or even interviewing witnesses or experts, so that even the court decision, the final act, should be also digital. So this concept was put onto the agenda of the judiciary, the government, more than 13 years ago, in 2007, where the first draft was drafted by our NGO together with prominent experts. It was submitted to the government, but unfortunately it came an end to the mandate of the government. So new government came, and the new government has to understand what does it mean e-justice from scratch. It took some time. Just the government was said, okay, this is something amazing, which took about 2 years. Then this government has to resign before the mandate came to an end. So the interim government came, which was replaced by permanent government. Also, the new government has to understand what e-justice means. It took 2 years. so practically nowadays, this reform is has still not finished, which unfortunately I'm not happy to say this, but this is the fact. Many things have happened during that time, but the law drafting process is something that is a challenge for the government as well, because the technologies are something very dynamic. They appear, they evolve, and they even they go to they are dead in years. And what does it mean for the law, which has to regulate in a long term the relations between people in the society in such so dynamic world of information technologies? Meaning that even the law process should adapt, because law should be more easily enforced. But this is not possible, not in Bulgaria, not in Germany, not in Austria, nor everywhere in the world. It's a very heavy, very bureaucratic, very heavy process on enforcing laws. So believe me, it is something that's a challenge for the legal system. How to regulate relations between people in such dynamic world. This this especially was, let's say, reflection of this issue was the appearance of COVID pandemic, the situation with COVID, when quickly some laws had to be adapted. And because of this quick process of adaptation of these laws, allowing, for example, for the court to have hearings remotely, digitally, municipality councils even to have gatherings digitally, different so-called commissions, bodies, grouping bodies, so that they can legally have their hearings, have their meetings digitally, remotely, through technologies like the one that we are using now. And these laws have to change because so many mistakes took place during the enforcement of these laws that they have to adapt even in a month. So even the system for lawmaking has to change with the COVID. And this is something that also brought so many problems to the society, and for the law drafting, for the lawmaking, and also for the experts that work in that field. They also had to change their mindset.
Yeah, when it comes to the experts, George, is this part of legal education? I mean, drafting laws. Do you learn this at the Bulgarian university? You probably don't, right? So you need to learn. Yeah, you need to learn this on the job.
No. Law drafting, I can say, is the most difficult part of the legal profession. That's why not many people are devoted to this. It requires lots of, let's say, complex knowledge, not only of the legal system, but also on the system of the society, how it is organized, how it works, the system of the administration, how the administration works, how the government works. So it is lots of knowledge about the economy, how it is organized, what are the processes, what are the situation with the particular country. So believe me, law drafting is the most difficult, the most challenging task of all. So whoever wants to devote him or herself to law drafting, believe me, it's something that requires knowledge. But let me stress on another point that is far more important in this process, because you asked for skills, what is taught at universities. Do lawyers need to have more, or I would say, adapted knowledge to a situation where they have to exercise their profession, whatever it is, lawyer or a judge or prosecutor, whoever, or counsel, legal counsel. Now lawyers have to be taught with other, let's say, other in-depth knowledge of how to use technologies, but not as a practical use, but understanding of how technologies work. Because now we speak of, for example, a lawyer who should defend the interests of his client, a firm who has used internet, email, or whatever technology to enter into valid contractual relationship with his counteragent, counterparty. How you should have knowledge of evidence, of digital evidence. What is this digital evidence? How it looks like? How you should present it to the court? Whether it is enforceable, whether it is can be admissible in court? How you should put authorship of messages of an SMS or a message in Facebook, on Facebook, whether it is valid or not valid, legally binding or not legally binding. This requires not only understanding of this new generation of laws which were enforced during the past 5 to 10 years, like regulation like the regulations on e-commerce, like the regulations on using of e-documents and e-signatures or e-identification or e-government or e-justice. Not only understanding the laws as a concept, but having some basic knowledge of understanding how technologies work. So the new lawyer, the new student, the law student, is not just expected to know the law. He should know how law works in the digital environment, how law regulates relations of people when using digital environment, when using the internet, which is something very abstract. So basic knowledge of how technologies work, I can say not that basic, and knowledge on the law is something which is far more challenging for the new lawyer, for the new student, for the new judge, who should make evaluation of whether some facts, whether they have happened in a digital environment, which is completely abstract relation of people which have developed by using technologies, whether facts or proofs that this have happened have to be understood, have to be extracted, have to be proved in a court, have to be evaluated by the judge, so that he can place his judgment onto these facts. So believe me, when we speak about skills and knowledge of the lawyers, of the students, it should start from the university.
Yeah, and how is this reflected in the university system at the moment? So what is the standard way to become a lawyer at the moment in Bulgaria? Is it a Bologna system that you follow?
It is. It is indeed. It is indeed. But still, it is not that different from Germany, from Austria. It's the same way of conducting your studies, the academia studies. But if you want to become a lawyer, meaning attorney at law, you should have a special exam only for lawyers, for legal practitioners who have worked in as legal counsels or as judges or as prosecutors after reaching given experience, professional experience. They can automatically obtain the right to become attorney at law, so that they can be admitted to the bar. To the bar. This speaking from private practitioners or those lawyers who are admitted to the bar. Of course, becoming prosecutor or judge, of course, there is a so-called beauty contest. It's based on special knowledge that you should prove in different stages, and only then you can become such. Same refers to notaries public, to bailiffs or private executive judges. So practically, yes, the system is quite has its requirements to so that lawyers can be admitted to another profession. But still, the new lawyer is required to have different skills.
Yeah, and this is not taught yet at universities, or are there special courses on IT and law, digital law, and so on?
It is taught in universities, but to my personal judgment, it is not at a necessary level which is required by the new adapted legal profession.
So you would argue that we need more courses in IT skills.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Definitely, there should be when studying. Sorry, the legal the challenges for the knowledge for the legal profession needs they are dependent on the law field, legal area which they regulate. For example, the relationship between private subjects, which is law on obligations or commercial law. They are dependent on and there are special rules which are now introduced. They're in force, like e-commerce, like the concepts of e-documents, concept of e-signatures. So these have to be taught either as part of the common courses on law and obligations or private law, or a special course. I would say that special course is needed. Or let's say the relations with the government, so-called administrative law, which is taught in the courses of administrative law. Now we have a whole concept of e-government, which provides so special, different skills of how administrative law should change, so that people can exercise their administrative rights before the government, and the government to the citizen digitally. It requires a special course. Same refers to cyber crimes. Cyber crimes are so specific subset of crimes which cannot be understood by the common knowledge which is taught in the universities. I mean, lawyers should understand what does it mean hacking by having knowledge on both from technical and from legal point of view, from legal side. What is, for example, a virus? What is a Trojan horse, or what is so-called, especially the new types of crimes which are now flooding everywhere, like this, like you receive every spoofing messages, or phishing, or farming, or whatever. They require an understanding of the technology, but also they require understanding of law. So it is a subset of knowledge that need to be particularly taught by professionals that understand that. And I speak about every aspect of the legal studies. So the curricula of the universities should definitely adapt. Some universities are more advanced, others are not, unfortunately, because of the freedom for provision of studies. The university, they have their own, let's say, agenda, own curricula, but definitely this is something that needs to be adapted. Otherwise, the lawyers that are now, I mean, the student that now finish, that graduate law, they will not have the necessary skills to cope with and to work in this, to defend the interest of the users in this new environment. So the COVID situation proved that.
And do you think that your position in this is a minority position, or is this shared by the by your colleagues at the law schools?
It's minority.
It's minority.
It's minority because it is somehow underestimated. But it was by far. It was until that moment. I will be very much interested to. When we reunite now in this new season, a new academic year with my colleagues from the universities, I will be very interested to learn how now they feel about the requirements for adapting of the curriculum of the universities. I think they will have to, they have now seen the world by different glasses.
So let's see, yeah. And there are physical meetings planned at the moment. So Bulgaria will start the academic year with regular courses on campus?
Yes. The Bulgarian government has decided, I mean, the Minister of Education, that the academic year should start both at schools and universities as a normal course of studies, of course, with lots of measures, anti-COVID measures, from an organizational measures that could not and reduce the risks of COVID spread.
And that's also supported by the students as an approach and by the staff.
This is a very interesting question, to be honest. I have a good friend of mine who is a professor and deputy dean of one of the biggest Bulgarian universities. He said, okay, we now have easily made the students go out of the universities during the pandemic. Now we can find a way to bring them back in the aulas, in the universities. So it's something that now we will see how the students will come back.
Are there any cases pending at the moment in front of Bulgarian courts about some of the measures that were taken, whether they were legal, in not only in universities, but in particular in universities?
For universities, Not to the best of my knowledge. But for other measures that were taken during the COVID pandemic, there are lots of court suits brought to life, brought to the court, and most of them are pending. But there are already first decisions that were announced by the court, even announcing some of the measures illegal, contradicting to the European legislation. Even there are cases at the Constitutional Court, which is not a court in stricto sensu, but it to announce some of the law rules, regulations that were enforced recently as anti-constitutional. So it is a very dynamic, very interesting moment, of course, because people react to measures, and of course these measures might go beyond the acceptable level of the human rights, of the personal protection of personal sphere, personal data, and many others. So practically, we're facing lots of cases.
Yeah, let me ask a very naive question. Probably, why is the Constitutional Court not a court, stricto sensu? Why would you say that?
It is under the Bulgarian system, the Constitutional Court, the way it is formed, it does not solve arguments, legal arguments. It only proclaims whether a given law provision or whole law contradicts to the Constitution. So practically, it is not, in the strict sense of the word, is not part of the judicial system, where it is based on different levels of protection: first instance, second instance, third instance, etc., etc. All these rules, which are normally applicable to the judiciary, are not applicable to the Constitutional Court. It's a separate body. It is called court only because there is no other word to describe what the Constitutional Court should do. They also make judgment, but only on whether provision of laws are in line of the Constitution, and that's all.
But the judges working there are independent, and they meet.
Yes.
So okay.
They're completely independent, of course, but
indeed. So
it is not part of the judiciary.
I understand.
It's not. They are not assigned by the Judicial Council. They are not subject to any disciplinary, any sanctions. They are completely independent. So
yes, I see. And are there any cases pending that you would like to report about privacy issues, data protection issues, tracing issues, tracking issues, if there are any? Is there a tracing app, for example, in use in Bulgaria at the moment? And did you develop this possibly, or
tracing up in Bulgaria was not enforced? Was not decided. Well, the government decided not to deploy, not to implement such a measure. So it is not in place.
Because of data protection, or because of technical issues, or both?
Both. I would say that was both. It was assessed as a very risky endeavor, and the government decided that it can cope with the COVID problem without necessity of such an application. And they proved to be correct, to be honest, because also in my understanding, having traceability of people without their knowledge and their, let's say, their consent is something very tricky. To what extent it is in line with the human rights principles and acts, and to what extent the government may overcome these principles to the extent to the benefit of the health of the society and the security of the society.
And
So,
okay, so no tracing app and therefore no case. Any other data protection related case that is pending that you are interested in or in front of the Constitutional Court at the moment due to the COVID situation?
I could say that we have a very, very recent development with the border control and the people to be for the control by the Ministry of Interior on the way you can drive, the way you can pass the border when you have administrative let's say fines or dues to the budget. It was enforced during the COVID. It was a special effect that we had about the way of moving people and way of the moving, even not internally, but also in to the other countries. Recently, the court announced that it is not legal. So practically, it had a special decision of proclaiming that one of the bylaws, according to the in Bulgaria, was invalid. It was actually not in line with the constitution and the legal regulations. So practically, it was diminished.
Yeah.
But actually, the most interesting cases are just about to come, to be honest, because they are against the measures.
Yeah, indeed, they are.
I don't know how it is in other countries, because it took time. It takes time. The courts in Bulgaria were during the COVID were not working. There were no court hearings. So practically they reinstalled their normal course of work just a month and a half ago. And practically we expect the first real decisions on such cases very soon, but not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I see. George, let me wrap up this very interesting conversation with one question, which will be the final one from my side, which is, if you were 18 today again, right? So would you go the same path that you went? And if so, what would you do in a different way than you did it?
Yes, definitely. If I look back, I would never choose another path, to be honest, because for me, I have two educations. One is legal, the other one is technical, and combining the knowledge of these both worlds. Practically, in the past, when I graduated from school, it was a long time ago. And no one, because the level of technical development of the society and the technologies was so far from this present moment that everyone thought that it's a waste of time, waste of knowledge. Why would you have two studies? Nowadays, it proved that having knowledge of these both worlds is not only of practical importance for the legal profession, for myself, but it's also very challenging, because for me, technologies are a passion. These are my hobbies. The law is my profession, and combining the hobby with the profession is something that is very inspiring. And I would let's say, I would urge everyone to find this for themselves, for himself or herself, to work what you like, what is your passion.
Yeah.
So I would never choose another way. I would never choose. Of course, I would have not missed many moments in my life, which I have missed for any reason, thinking whether this is right or not. But people should be brave. They should act whenever they think this is something that is worth acting. So, of course, it's retrospection. When I made retrospection, I will not change it, but I would have lived the life even more efficiently.
Yeah. And so what's the next big project for the future for you? What is the next topic that you really want to go into detail with, and the next big project?
I would go for digital transformation, the legal digital transformation.
So
how to make everything digitally, which for which there are technologies, but it should be made in a legal way. That if you go in a court, they should be admissible in court as well. This is very challenging topic, the digital transformation. So I would say the next topic of our generation and the forthcoming generation will be legal digital transformation.
Indeed, yeah, that's it will be very interesting to see whether we live long enough to see the outcome of this big project. But let's be optimistic with this. George, is there anything that I should have asked you? Anything that you would like to add to this very interesting conversation?
Asking a lawyer and a professor whether he has anything to say, it's not, it's not very
well.
practical.
I take the risk. I take the risk.
No, really, I can speak for hours about things I'm. In fact, it's very interesting, and I'm very happy for your very amazing, great initiative to start such channels when. Law students, when lawyers, I mean, people can touch the problems of the society, especially the legal profession, which is and legal studies, which are so they have to be very dynamic these days. And I will be very much happy if there are further discussions on other topics. Sorry. About these areas, so that we can speak in details, in depth, because this is something truly challenging, truly challenging.
Indeed, it is. Indeed. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this, George. And I'm very sure that you will be one of the most dynamic personalities in Bulgaria driving this development for the next many years. Thank you for giving some of your time, your precious time, to us. Thank you also to our listeners for giving their time to us. We appreciate this. Stay healthy, stay active, and stay attentive. Take care. All the best to all of you. Thank you, George.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.